Welcome to the Circle of Trust, the podcast where campaigns and strategies to grow law firms are unveiled. Hosted by law firm Chief Marketing Officer Keith Dyer, the founder of LEXGRO. This podcast is dedicated to being a safe and objective place to educate and train law firm owners and personnel on the marketing secrets and strategies that bring in consistent cases and predictable revenue. Whether you're a solo practitioner, a small firm, or a multi-partner law firm ready to scale, this podcast and the LEXGRO platform are your trusted go-to source for objective and cutting-edge marketing and intake training. And now, Law Firm Chief Marketing Officer Keith Dyer with The Circle of Trust.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a module number 1 for our intake training that we're going to do today with our friend Chris, our friend and my colleague Chris Mullins, who owns a great company called Intake Academy, and she is going to give us today some best practices on intake to get us kicked off for this particular course subject. Chris is located up in New Hampshire, but she has clients all over the country, and she is considered by most people as to be the premier intake training specialist, training company in the United States. Chris, welcome to our training. And, tell us a little bit about you and your company real quick, and then we'll jump into what the best practices are for intake.
Okay, well, thank you, Keith. Let's see. I've been working with law firms now for 30 years, and all things conversion. So the name Intake Academy, because primarily the focus was intake. Intake is the department that handles conversion for law firms after they spend money on marketing and getting leads to opt in. And so we listen to call recordings and analyze the call recordings, and then teach the intake team how to identify opportunities within those calls to improve conversion. Obviously, we also tell them all the things that they're doing great, because we want them to keep doing that too. But so it started with intake. It's still intake, but what happened over the years too is managing partners kind of participated in some of the training classes and realized that these methods, communications, relationships, empathy, intimacy, doing what you say you're going to do, all apply even to client communication. So we work with attorneys and paralegals now too. But I worked in call centers for years, and mostly inbound and outbound, and that's just kind of like how it happened. I decided to start my own business. That's what I did. We started out doing mystery calls, and yes, we used cassette. There was no Zoom. It was
Tell us what a mystery call is.
We would call our clients, and my whole team was virtual even when we had cassettes. I never had an in-person team. So we were doing virtual way before most people even talked about it. But my team would call a law firm, like a client, and pretend to be a prospective client, because that's what the client wanted us to do. And we would record the call and then mail the cassettes of the call recordings to the managing partner so that they could listen to them and share them with the team. And that was a mystery call. And then I realized that they weren't listening to the calls. They weren't playing the cassettes. So we went ahead and bought a box of cassette players, and we mailed the cassette players, and they still weren't doing it. So then I personally typed, transcribed every single mystery call, and sent stacks of paper in boxes to my clients, so they had everything that they needed to actually listen to what they paid for, so that they could use the information to help their team. And that was a long time ago. There's more stories there, but we won't go there right now. So
right. Unfortunately, we probably wouldn't have enough time, because you have great stories because you've been doing this for so long. So yeah, I mean, in all of this, just to kind of remind our.
I'll tell you one more. I'll tell you one more quick story. Just one more really quick one, okay?
All right,
Here's
sure.
a really good one. This one's really good. Back in the day, cassettes back in that day. I used to actually travel to go in person and do training, like a weekend boot camp, which I don't do anymore. So don't ask. We don't do that anymore. But that's what I used to do, right? Because I don't know, that's just the way it worked. And what I would do is I wouldn't tell, if I went for one client, I wouldn't tell my other clients that were in that area that I was going to show up. I would show up unannounced. And I got a spy pen. It's a nice looking spy pen. And I would wear it on my shirt. And I would go into the firm completely unannounced. And some other clients that I had, they didn't know who I was because they never met me. And it was taking a video camera of everything what's going on.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And there's more to that story, but I would provide the recording to some of my clients. They loved it, but they never knew when I was going to pop in, and I would stand there at the counter. They didn't know who I was until they heard me say one word. They heard me say one word and they knew who it was. And I said, super.
That is your trademark, super.
Anyway,
Yeah.
there you go, Keith.
No, I love that. And I kind of want to put in context for our students that, marketing companies can bring all the leads in the world they want into the law firm if they pay for them, right? And it can be expensive to pay for leads. Eventually, you start getting diminishing returns. So the intake department really acts as the sales department of your law firm. And it's so important to have an efficient and to get the maximum that you can out of the people that are answering the phones, because that's going to make your law firm that much more efficient. Because if you spend the money to get the lead, but it gets lost in intake, then it's lost revenue. And so it's lost opportunities. And sometimes you have no idea how tremendous those opportunities that you might lose could be. So this is, to me, the most important part of maximizing the efficiency of your law firm marketing spend, and eventually or ultimately your law firm marketing budget overall, is to make sure that intake is converting to the very best of their abilities everything they can. And so with that said, let's talk about what you feel like are the best practices for intake for a law firm. Like, give us a list of what you think maybe the best practices are and why they are, and just whatever in your experience can help these students today.
Well, I mean, the first is mindset. Mindset for the top down managing partners, CEOs, attorneys, whatever the title is for the different size law firms. So the mindset has to be, oh yeah, intake, they are the sales team. And without that mindset, not much is going to really stick because we won't follow through with it. So that's one. And then another would, and this is not in any special order, is record your calls. Check the laws for recording calls in your state, but there's no way you can improve conversion or help your intake team give them the right training if you're not recording your calls. So you should be recording all of your prospect calls at a minimum, and let them know. Don't sneak up on them. Tell them that you're doing it. Do the right thing. But that's not enough. The next step is you've got to listen to them. So I call that RMFD: record, monitor, feedback daily. So get them recorded, and then put a system and a process in place where they're being listened to. And then that information is being shared with the intake team. Play the call for them. Another best practice would be to have the capability of having an intake trainer or an intake manager or an intake supervisor or an intake team leader be able to actually listen to call recordings live while they're happening. And they could walk around the intake department with the headset or whatever it is that they're using, and they could barge into the call, or they could do like a whisper, which is another way that people look at it. So I could be on the phone handling a call and the supervisor's walking around, and they get to hear me in the middle of the call. And then the whisper could be me telling that intake specialist what to do differently, but the other person can't hear it. So, if you gotta realize that it is a sales team, and then treat them like a sales team and run it like a sales team. So listen, do the call recordings, listen to the calls, and then provide feedback to your team so that you can help them. So, I mean, those are the most important things. Without any of that, you don't really have much to go on. So how's that so far, Keith?
I like it. Can you let's review real quick RMFD. I just want to put with each acronym. I want to put. I want to remind them of what that means. Record calls. That's R, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And we're
Yes.
really recording prospect calls.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. And I do this too, and because I'm learning as you're teaching, right?
Yeah.
And so, what is the M?
Monitor.
Monitor calls.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what does that entail?
Listen to them. Don't just record them. Put a process in place to listen to them.
And do you want to listen to all of them, or a portion, or how would you do that?
I mean, it depends on if you have enough people that can actually do this. So at a minimum, if you listen to, a few calls per week per person, that would be amazing. But again, it depends on how many calls you're getting, and if this person's that's going to be doing it is full-time or part-time. The best thing to do is when you're building or rebuilding your intake team is add that role. Build it in. You're going to have an auditor that does this. This is their job. This is what they do.
I love that. Yeah, that's good. Thank you for that clarification.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you have to think about with this and what you're really saying is it's intentionality, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be intentional and put processes that are intentional in place, probably with some KPIs
Mm-hmm.
to make sure this is happening. So what might be some KPIs that they would want?
Oh, wait a minute. Let me finish the acronym.
Yeah, I thought we would come back to it. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's okay. All right. Oh, I just want to make sure you weren't going to forget, Keith.
I'm not. I'm not. I've got. Well, we can come back to KPIs. Let's follow your logic. So we did R, M, and then then F?
Feedback.
Feedback to the actual intake specialists
Yes.
and to the managers.
Yes. Yeah.
And then P.
No, it's D for daily.
I'm sorry, D.
Yeah, that's okay. Do it every day. I mean, unless there's certain days a week you don't spend money on marketing.
There's not. There's no breaks.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And so explain what daily monitoring means, just to get into the weeds a little bit on that. So it's real clear.
You have we'll just call it an intake auditor. Okay.
So intake auditor listens every day.
Yeah, listens every day to the different team members' calls, prospect calls. And you would have a scoring system in place so that the auditor or the QA person, whatever title you want to give them, is they're scoring those calls on best practices. So the screening questions would be one. Are we asking all the correct screening questions? Tone of voice, empathy, one call close. Did we close that prospective client on that phone? Did we get them sign up on that one call, or did we not do it? Are we chasing and following up? So did we do the one call close?
Mm-hmm.
Did we ask how they heard about us? Did we confirm all their contact information? And I'm sure there's a few more, but I think right now I mean, the one call close is the most important because it's the conversion, but then the other you could say, did we discuss next steps?
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say the one call close was done. Did we say what the next steps were? Let's just say that the person didn't qualify and we couldn't help them as far as directly versus indirectly might be a referral. Well, we want that person to still know the next steps. We don't want to say, okay, well, thank you. So next steps, did we discuss next steps? And did we say the name of the law firm, and the intake specialist's name clearly at the greeting? Did we get the name of the person at the beginning of the call and use it throughout the call? So I think that is a good solid list for law firms to begin the process. So access the call recordings, listen to the call recordings, which is the monitoring part, audit them, and then give feedback to the team member. Here's the results that I got from this call. And it's not just, you don't want just an analyst, you want them to also be a trainer. So they give the feedback, which means they're doing the training. They're not just giving the report. They're saying, okay, here's what happened. I'm going to play the call for you. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I like that. That's
you do it every day. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. So if there were some ways to measure the performance of the intake specialist and the auditor, how would you go about doing that? And are there certain KPIs or I guess ways to do that you would definitely recommend or deploy or?
Well, at a minimum with the auditor, I recommend that they're held accountable to do X amount of audits per week, per person. Like there's a goal, they have a goal. They've got to get this many done per person per week. And because most auditing roles, they don't have that kind of responsibility. They're not really, I mean, some firms do it, but most don't. Most don't even have an auditor. So yeah, just decide on, depending on how long that person's working, if they work full time and how many team members you have, just put a goal in. You can always change the goal, but you've got to get a minimum of X amount audits scored successfully per person per week, which includes the feedback session, which is the training moments, the one-on-one training. So that would be one way to hold that person accountable. But then another layer to that would be performance. Like for the intake specialist, the auditor will get recognition on some level, maybe a bonus, something like that, whatever works for your firm, for the team members that are improving their conversion, and their score on the audits. So because if I'm the auditor and I'm giving feedback, well, that's mini coaching. And so if I'm doing my frequency of my audits and I'm giving good information and I'm not wasting time doing audits that make no sense at all, then those numbers are going to improve. The conversion is going to improve, and the scores that the auditor is delivering is going to improve.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so then it starts to give you tangible understanding of whether things are improving or not.
Right. But the auditor should start as an intake specialist, and yeah, I mean, even as a side note, what I notice is a lot of firms do is they take their best intake specialist and they call them the supervisor or the manager when they're not even qualified to do that kind of job, and they're not even experienced in it, and then they lose their best person.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do that with the auditor. Just everybody starts an intake, like your entire firm. When you hire a new person, everybody starts an intake. and the auditor starts an intake and they get really good at it. And then if they qualify to be an auditor, which is another level, which is now a career opportunity within intake, then they get promoted to that.
I love that, because a great intake specialist too does not always mean they'll be a great auditor, right?
Right, because that's a different kind of mindset. And your auditor, so you have your intake specialist, they become the auditor, however that works, all these goals and everything. And then, but they need to be refreshed. So at least once a month, the auditor should be required to be retrained in everything that was decided that they're scoring on, so that they can keep reminding themselves, this is the method, this is the method, this is the method I'm scoring on. Because you can lose sight of it. You can kind of start swaying your mindset, because it is not an easy job auditing and giving feedback. And then when you're giving feedback, you're receiving feedback from the team, and the team is going to say things like, well, you know what it's like in intake. Why would you say that I did that? Sometimes I can't control it. Or why would you give me that score? I kind of said it, I just did it differently. And now then the auditor's like, their brain's getting a little bit fried. So they need to be refreshed on, these are the rules, this is the way we do it, this is how it flows.
I love it. I mean, the structure of everything is what I think the majority of the law firms that I come into, it's almost as if sometimes intake is an afterthought. And
Yeah.
Which is just shocking to me. It really is. I mean, because no other business would think of their sales department as an afterthought. But I think because in law, in the field, in law firms world, or in the legal field, so much goes into the execution of the case, and the lawyers are so focused on getting the good outcome, hopefully if they're good lawyers, that they tend to forget the conversion side of things. And again, to remind everyone, I mean, intake is your sales department. So creating these processes and procedures and protocols and KPIs and ways to hold people accountable are so key. And I think this is a great kickoff to this series of training. And happy to talk about whatever else you may want to teach. But I love what we've done here so far. Is there more that you'd like to add as sort of an introductory to this particular training?
Well, I'll leave you with this thought. And I think if you read maybe both of my books, but like one of them is Intake Specialist, the Unsung Heroes of Law Firms Worldwide. I'm pretty sure that book there, it'll talk about this a little bit, but the whole thing about intake is, and other businesses do this too, not just law firms. But law firms more kind of like what you're saying. They never thought of themselves as a sales business.
Right.
And intake is kind of like the gals in the back of the room. That's how they're always thought of. In fact, even now, I hear women CEOs and men CEOs and managing partners and attorneys referring to intake as my girls.
Yeah.
Right? So my point
like
is,
it's 1963.
Yeah. So my point is, we still, all of us still feel and think of intake as the gals in the back of the room, or the stepsister, and I think it all started once upon a time when there was such a thing as receptionists at businesses. And Gal Friday, secretaries, they did everything and they answered the phone. And then before you knew it, it led to creating one or two team members that usually is the mother of the owner of the firm, or the sister, or the brother, or the whole family. And we still didn't link it up, because we still were getting business, and some firms are doing quite well and they're satisfied with that. So the mindset has to change, that it's the sales team. And I believe intake should be connected to marketing. And
I agree. They should be unified.
Yeah, just be one department with different career levels under that umbrella, and they all work together. And every time the owner talks about a new marketing campaign, The discussion always includes intake on the list because it's part of the checklist.
Agreed, and they should be
uh,
part of your, there should be a weekly or bi-weekly marketing and intake meeting.
Yeah, so just let intake go to the meetings. At the end of the day, Keith, the mindset has to be changed. It is getting better, but it's shocking how far we still have to go. And the only thing that you could really do is just imagine for one day, intake's gone. Your phone's ringing off the hook and there's nobody there.
Yeah, that's why I say it's the most important department in the law firm.
But you have to feel it. The firm has to feel what I just said actually happening to get it.
I agree completely. Well, thank you so much for this today. I thought it was very to the point and very helpful. I think people have got some great ideas they can go and chew on and think about how they can insert these things into their firms and these processes. And I think they can all, and we're going to offer your book up, by the way,
Right.
and links here, so they can actually go and download the books themselves. They can contact you directly, or they can contact you through our concierge, whatever.
Yeah.
And so there is a direct link to Chris, just for all the students to let you know. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Because I thought this was a great start. We'll do another one here coming up soon, and that'll be created from this training. In other words, it'll come in a sequence.
Mhm.
And I appreciate your time. What else would you like to add? Anything else?
Just take care of your intake team. If you treat them good, they'll treat you good, and they'll treat your clients and prospects good.
Agreed. I think that goes across for all their employees.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Yep. Well, thank you so much, Chris. And thank
Right.
you, everyone. Hope you learned a lot, and we look forward to seeing you on the next training. Thank you.
Right, so long, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Circle of Trust. If you found today's insights valuable, consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback fuels our mission to bring outstanding content. For additional resources, show notes, and exclusive offers, visit our website at LEXGRO.com, where you can join our platform for free. By joining the platform, you can take our marketing training to become certified in law firm marketing and intake. And you can hire fractional executives and trained virtual assistants to easily implement your marketing strategies. For those ready to take action and explore how a fractional chief marketing officer can transform law firm success, scheduling a strategy call is just a click away. Simply follow the Calendly link in the description box below. Remember, the journey to 7 to 8 figures starts with the right strategies and support for implementation. Join us again next time for another exciting episode. Until then, listeners are encouraged to keep innovating, growing, and uncovering the secrets to predictable and consistent growth. See you next time on The Circle of Trust. Let's grow with LEXGRO.